consolidating after the post-colonial politics in India. That is what we need to discuss today. Now this session, this hour. And again, in this session, I would like to discuss with you about what is pluralism, the basic information. What are the very important distinctive feature or the similarities or distinctiveness in between the multiculturalism and pluralism, and how the in a post-colonial period the pluralism has been maintained, and what are the important aspects in the constitution and in the policy to promoting pluralism again, and what are the different challenges to the pluralism, and what are to do with the pluralism. And these are the important issues I would like to address in this session. And in order to understand about the pluralism, we have to understand the basic meaning of the pluralism. The pluralism is a political philosophy like multiculturalism. It is also a political philosophy and ideology. And pluralism is a political philosophy holding that the people of different belief, background, and lifestyle can coexist in the same society and are particularly equal in political process, equally respected or equally considered its identity. I mean, the pluralism assumes that its practice will lead to the decision makers to negotiate solutions to contribute to the common good of the entire society. In a society, there will be so many identities, but society has to accommodate interest of all community for the common good. The one basic definition is there to understand the pluralism is that it refers to a society, first of all, and a system of governance, or the organization that different group that keeps their identities while existing with other groups, or a more dominant group rather than just one group or subgroup or culture dictating how things go. The pluralism recognizes a large number of competing interest group that shares the power. The pluralism serves as a model of democracy, while different groups can voice their opinion and ideas. See, the very crux of the very core soap meaning of the pluralism is lies with the last line, that is the pluralism serves as a model of the democracy while the different groups can voice their opinion and idea. So this is the a simple definition to understand what pluralism is. And apart from that, there are other uh, stages of there. There is a pluralism in a post-colonial India is rooted in the nation's vast diversity, religious, linguistic, ethnic, and social aspects. As you all know, after independence, independent India, after independence, the India deliberately adopted pluralistic constitution, setting itself apart from many other post-colonial societies that often choose centralized or dehumanizing framework. The approach was shared by several other factors. To understanding the social diversity across cultural, political, and philosophical dimensions, and the coexistence of the contradictory and competing positions without faced uniformity, and the foundation of India's democratic culture and the social harmony. These are all the very important aspects we need to understand. The key insight of this is the pluralism allows freedom of association while maintaining unity through diversity. Unity through diversity. That is the very key aspect of the pluralism. At the same time, we need to understand the quite antagonistic ideology, that is the majoritarianism. If we understand majoritarian, we can clearly understand what is pluralism. It is defined as a political philosophy. Again, the majoritarianism is also a political philosophy, where the majority community is preeminent and enjoys primacy and meaning more rights than other communities. That is majoritarian. One major community is predominant and claiming supremacy, and again claiming the more rights than other communities. That is majoritarianism. So, majoritarianism, in essence, it is about perceiving superiority and reclaiming arbitrary space and importance for other communities. And it is therefore it is a fundamental sense and the conflict with the idea of the republic and the democracy. So this is what the very concept of majoritarianism. Here, why I uh, uh, explained about majoritarian, because if we understand majoritarianism, then we can easily understand what is pluralism. So here, one important confusions will comes in the mind. What is that? The what is pluralism and what is multiculturalism? Of course, multiculturalism and pluralism are related concepts. Both are recognized in the existence of the multiple culture, religious, ethnic groups within the same society. However, they differ in some important ways. So both are having the similar meaning and we are using in the similar sense, but there are some important differences in between the major multiculturalism and pluralism. So key difference or key distinctions are, the one is pluralism, there is a dominant culture or set of core societal values. So in pluralism, there is a dominant culture or the set of core societal value. The minority groups are encouraged or allowed to retain their unique cultural identities, but the same must be consistent with the mainstream value and laws of the broader society. So, see, in pluralism, there will be one dominant community or the one dominant societal value, and at the same time, there will be many minor groups. They are also allowed to to play their own unique role in the cultural identity, but without assimilation, and it promotes with a dominant culture acts as a framework within which the diversity is accepted as long as it doesn't contradict the central social principle, that is pluralism. When it comes to the multiculturalism, there is one single dominant culture, right? There is one single dominant culture. All culture, religion, or ethnic groups are regarded as equal contributors to the society with no hierarchy of importance. The diverse cultures can flourish side by side without needing to conform to the majority norms. See, this is what the difference between the pluralism and multiculturalism. In the pluralism, there is one dominant culture, and all minority groups will be play its own role, but it supports the dominant community. But in multiculturalism, of course, there will be dominant culture, but all cultures will be equal and equally considered, and without any uh, assimilating, it will play its own identity and its own role in all culture. So that is what the first important difference between the pluralism and multiculturalism. And second important difference is there. That is, pluralism focuses on integration of minority groups into social fabric. So So in pluralism, they focuses on integration of minority groups, other subgroups into a social fabric without total assimilation. There will be no total assimilation of the minor groups into the major groups. There will be it will support to the major group. It will goes with the along with the major culture, but without assimilation, it is trying to retain its the basic quality. That is, the participation in wider society is encouraged, but cultural practices are respected as long as they align with the host society's fundamental value. Right. So, of course, one leading culture or one leading group or majority group will be there in pluralism, but all subgroups will supporting it without assimilation, but to keeping its identity well. That is pluralism. Whereas in multiculturalism, it emphasizes the recognition of support of cultural differences and the coexistence of distinct communities. Each group is free to preserve its unique tradition without pressure to be integrated into the dominant culture. So, in a pluralism, the sub communities will, to certain extent, it submerge, not submerge, completely assimilate, but to align with the major culture, that is unity in diversity. But here in multiculturalism, all cultures will contribute the same in a social culture, in a society, and without assimilating and with preserving its own uniqueness. That is what the second difference between pluralism and multiculturalism. The third important aspect, again, we need to understand the minor difference between the pluralism and multiculturalism is it pluralism often implies the passive acceptance. A dominant group allows cultural diversity, but doesn't always actively support or accelerate the minority groups. The pluralism is seen as a way to manage diversity peacefully within the frame of the dominant culture. So there will be one dominant culture. So there will be one dominant culture. So at the same time, it is trying to the pluralism is seen as a way to manage diversity peacefully within the framework of the dominant culture. Whereas the multiculturalism concern, it seeks active recognition, rights, and support for the majority culture. Those policies may protect language and support cultural festivals and the grant legal recognitions or autonomy. So this is how the multiculturalism works to ensure that the values and identities of the minority groups are not overshadowed, or the marginalized. So these are all some important differences between the pluralism and multiculturalism. And the pluralism sometimes linked to a society where the different cultural ingredients are present, but maintain the flavor of the main recipe. It is like stew. And the multiculturalism is often described as a solid dog theory, while I have given the same example while dealing with the multiculturalism. It is described as solid bulk theory. Each ingredient, that is the culture, ingredient means the culture, keeps its distinct identity while contributing to the whole, right? With no single element dominating. In multiculturalism, there will be no dominant culture, and all cultures are equal, considered equally, and contributing equally and respected equally in multiculturalism. Whereas in pluralism, even different cultures will be considered, and to certain extent, it will be aligned with the main culture without losing its essence. Without losing its essence, it is something like uh, uh, some chili in the sambar, but Sambar is the chili is completely it seems to be assimilated in the sambar, but it gives its different quality. That is whether the sambar is chili or not. So this is how we can understand what is pluralism and what is multiculturalism. There is a slightest difference, but many of the time we are using in a similar way. But there is definitely a difference between multiculturalism and pluralism. So therefore, I wanted to make it clear what is pluralism and what is multiculturalism. So now we should go to the uh, pluralism. We have pluralism. Let us focus on the factual reality of Indian social system, whether Indian society is really a pluralist or not. So let's go for that. The anthropological survey of India, it indicates that the land, that is India, has 4,635 communities, diverse in biological trait, dress, language, and form of worship, occupation, food habit, and kinship patterns. See the diversity of India. Even anthropological survey is indicating that the India has 4,635 communities, which are all communities are diverse in biological traits. Their dress pattern is different, their languages are different, their form, their workshops are different, their occupations are different, food habits are different, and even kinship patterns are different. So such a multi-dimensional, such a plural society India is. And apart from that, the linguistic survey of India indicates that more than exactly 22 languages have been identified as national languages in its 18th, 8th schedule of Indian Constitution. Apart from that, there are so many languages. And as a result, the identity of India is plural and diverse. A consequence of coming together of the people with such a different social and cultural traits. And it is this, the plurality that constitutes Indian identity, expressed in the Constitution through the principle of democracy and secularism. And religious and caste divisions. There are n number of caste divisions. There is a sub-caste and very subdivisions in the even in microscopic level in the caste system. That is the religious and the caste divisions have been of enduring significance in the national politics. As you all know, how political parties are making use of those castes and sub-castes and all. Now at present they are playing uh, the the caste politics, the caste census, and internal reservation, and many other aspects. How the time and again the political parties are playing its role. So the with linguistic divisions, it become less conscientious since 1950. And in order to understand, is India truly pluralistic? Well, let us a few more important aspects to look into. The pluralism has been the main feature of Indian society. The India is pluralist society, no doubt about it. Society since its inception. And plurality is the reality in our ethos and constitution give equal respect for all faiths, religion. The Indian society is a plural society and the cultural imbued with the considerable doses of unification. And India's population of nearly approximately 1.4 billion comprises of over, as I've already told, 4,635 communities, and out of which the 78% of whom are not only linguistic but also cultural and social categories. 78%, 78% of whom are linguistic and cultural and social categories, different categories. And religious minorities constitutes into near about 19.4% of the total. In total, India's population among 1.4 billion, 19.4% or the religious minorities are there. The human diversities are both hierarchical and even regional also. So such a diverse country India is. More than 121, apart from all these classifications and statistical analysis and figures, facts and figures, a very striking figure is there, that is more than 121 languages with at least 10,000 speakers each. See the plurality of India. 121, among that, the 22 are considered as national languages, and apart from that, there will be 100 plus languages, some regional languages, sub-regional languages are there. Those languages are at least 10,000 speakers each. It is such a diverse country, India. Nearly 20,000 mother tongues. 20,000. These are all facts as per the government surveys. It is not merely I am giving those statistics. So it is as per the government census, nearly 20,000 mother tongues and dialectics are reported in the national surveys. So why I am telling all these figures? Because India is such a diverse country. There are no one language, no one culture, no one mother tongue. There are any number of mother tongues. See, this is the 20,000 mother tongue means regional languages are different, and the mother tongues are different. In one particular village, there will be more than n number of languages, and each families will speak different languages altogether. So these facts and figures shows that, indicates that, so India is definitely a pluralistic society with a divergent culture, divergent linguistic identities, divergent regional identities, divergent religious categories. There are so many. So these are all important aspects which says that India is pluralistic society. So in order to boost all these issues, let us go some historical facts. See how cultural pluralism is in practice in India. See, in an archaeological heritage as a unity symbol in the pluralist cultural pluralism, and let us go through. See, there are different religious iconic temples are unique in India, which shows that the unity symbol in multicultural pluralism. That is Ajanta caves, that is Buddhist cave, and Kashi temple, Hindu temple, Taj Mahal, Islamic, the Golden Temple, Sikh, and Gomateshwara, Jain. See the cultural pluralism in the historical heritage since the time immemorial, as we have been witnessing that. So the connecting factor is the all evoke emotional experience of being Indian despite representing different faiths. Right? Well, of course, we have different. Of course, we have different faiths, but it is evoking that emotional experience of being Indian despite representing the different faiths of in India. These are all the architectural heritage we are talking about. And as far as linguistic diversity concerned, the multilingual reality is true. As you all know, since the participants are from different states, and Telangana, uh, Telugu, and the Bengal is Bengali, and different states are speaking different languages. This is how the linguistic diversity is there, but no monopoly of single language in India. Local language is different, regional language is different, national languages are different, and even international languages are coexisting in India. Local, regional, national, and international languages are coexisting in India. That is the very beauty of India. There is a cultural encouragement of learning multiple languages simultaneously, and witnessing to embrace the linguistic diversity without discarding others. So all languages are trying to exist and without discarding other language. The philosophy is the addition. The all languages are addition, not substitution of languages. Is the very important aspect with respect to the linguistic diversity concern. And as far as religious coexistence concerned, it's a multi-religious composition, as you all know very well. No single god worship mandate in the country. Official records often mention that 8 to 10 major religions are there in India, but in true count is higher if we include smaller faith, tribal, and indigenous beliefs. According to the 2011 census of India, says that subsequent analysis, census and subsequent analysis says that 83 smaller religious groups are there, each with at least 100 self-declared adherents. See, 83 smaller religious groups apart from 8 to 10 major religions in India. And we have noticed that the most of which are forms of tribal and indigenous faith. In total, there are dozens of the distinct religions and hundreds of the traditional and tribal religious expressions are practiced in throughout the India. So each community follows the distinct customs and traditions. And as you all know, it is a different deities to the different communities and castes, and even peaceful coexistence rather than confrontation. The core principle is that the diversity in worship, unity in respect. It's a very important aspect. Even though we have so many religious faiths in India, but diversity in worship will be definitely Hindus worship are different, Christians worship are different, Islamic people, the Islam worship is different, but unity in respect, diversity in worship is the core principle of that. And let us go for the even political pluralism in the history. That is also a very important aspect because the political parties and politicians are playing a very important role in polarizing the religions and all. But it is different. See, rarely ruled by single power. That is the exception of the Ashoka, the Samrat Ashoka, and Britishers. See, simultaneously there were many multiple families who ruled India. For example, Mughals in north, Vijayanagara in south, and Bahmani Sultanates in Deccan. So no one dominant family and dominant king is ruled all over India except the Ashoka and Britishers. And in the modern democracy, after we got independence, we have adopted the multi-party political system. That is, multiple identities are coexisting. There is Bengali, Hindi, Indian, Hindu. There are the multiple identities are there in the power structure. So therefore, these are all historical backgrounds which says that India is a definitely pluralistic country where the pluralism should prevail, and India is a land of the pluralists, no doubt about it. And it's coming to the consolidating space for the pluralism in post-colonial politics in India, which is an important aspect we need to understand. So, with that pluralistic background, with that cultural background, and we need to, our Indian leaders and constitutional framers and other elites, political elites, and even bureaucratic elites have framed India into a pluralistic society. They tried a lot. Yeah, let us see one by one. See, again, the constitutional framework. We need to understand about the constitutional framework. The Indian Constitution, which is drafted after the independence, it is incorporated the group differentiated rights, quotas for marginalized groups such as Dalits, Adivasis, and the guarantee for the linguistic and religious minorities also. The space have been given to the linguistic minorities, even religious minorities, apart from Dalits and Adivasis. While these provisions intended to foster inclusion and challenges remain regarding the full protection of minority cultures and identity. This is how the constitutional framework have been done to promoting the pluralism in India. Second important aspect is the federal structure. As you all know, what is federal structure? The federal structure is the Indian federal system provides space for linguistic and regional identities by allowing state boundaries to be redrawn and thus accommodating their demands for autonomy. As you all know, the states have been reorganized based on the languages. Tamil speaking people, Tamil Nadu, and Telugu speaking people, Telugu Desham, and Kannada speaking people, Karnataka, and so on and so forth. So the reorganization based on the languages is that is the federal structure which allowed them to keep their identity well. This flexibility helped the certain regional tensions and prevented rise of a single dominant cleavages to could de-establish the national unity. So this second important aspect to the pluralism in the post-colonial politics. We can see that. And another very significant important aspect is secularism and equal rights. The normative vocabulary of Indian nationalism included the value like secularism, equal citizenship and democracy and social justice. These are the very key aspects and key principles India have been followed. So that really promoting pluralism well, secularism and equal citizenship and democracy and social justice. It is helpful to the national unity. While not all the leaders we have supported for that, and the practical consideration led to the adoption for the disadvantaged groups as a means to achieve the social justice and balanced development. So the provisions were given to the social categories, religious categories, and even marginalized categories, and even the other subcategories and minority groups for the promotion of their identity as well. And another important aspect is the role of political parties and the elections, how these two are trying to promote the Indian pluralism well. The political parties in India have generally been multi-ethnic and have included minorities in its significant role. And a competitive elections, free and fair process, and a multitude of the parties have created avenues for the different groups to participate in self-correct with exclusion occur. Of course, some aspects will definitely come in the way, especially with respect. This is an ideology. This is an idea. Free and fair elections have been conducting by the election commissions and all. But at the same time, there are so many issues with even election commission and many other aspects, as you all know. We shall discuss a little later about that. But as principle, all political parties and even election commissions are trying to maintain the pluralism in India by by conducting free and fair election process and the even multi-party system which promotes which gives space for all categories or communities in all political parties. So in a way which helps to promote the pluralism in India. And even another important aspect is judicial aspect. That is, we have, as we all know, we have independent judiciary and even independent election commission, and those both of them have functioned as the safeguards for the inclusion and providing minority groups and aggrieved parties alternative forums for the for redress the contributing and pluralistic fabric. So definitely judiciary playing a very predominant role. If anything happen either in the state or the nation, definitely the Supreme Court and High Courts will come in the way to protect the rights of the different categories. Either it may be a marginalized community or minority groups or many other groups. Judiciary playing a very predominant role, especially in recent past. Judiciary and judicial activism have played very predominant role in order to protecting the pluralism or from pluralistic fabric of the country. Then affirmative action and accommodation. This is what we have already discussed in our previous discussion. That affirmative action is nothing but the giving special provisions to the marginalized community. That is either, of course, SCs, STs, OBCs, and even linguistic categories and tribal categories and other. So that is affirmative action. Even that affirmative action applies even in women also. But recently, the government is trying to introducing already given for in some areas, but now in Parliament and Assembly they are trying to introduce that 33% reservation for women and all. These are all comes under the affirmative actions. It includes quotas and reservations for marginalized communities and women as well. How aiming to equalize opportunity. This is very aim of the affirmative action is to equalize opportunities for all categories. The representation, they have to promote the representation in all sectors, that is educational, social, political, in other areas, in other space. So that the affirmative action helped to consolidate the idea that must not require, unity must not require uniformity, but rather accommodation and the synthesis of other important aspects. Then the institutional heterogeneity is another important unique aspect of that. The institutional heterogeneity in political system with a tension between the parliamentary supremacy, parliamentary sovereignty in one hand and a judicial review in another hand has also been the source of inclusion. The parliament has sovereignty to frame any kind of laws to incorporate or to promote these categories, uh, marginalized categories, or several other categories are in the society. At the same time, if it is beyond the constitutional boundaries, then a judicial review comes in the way to either it is protect if it is overcrossed or promote if it is not up to the mark. So this is how the parliamentary sovereignty and the judicial review, both of them are playing a very crucial role in order to include the inclusive policies of the country. In higher judiciary, particularly as often asserted itself as a main guardian of the constitution to compensate for the unelected status and frequently challenging the actions of the governments and issues and reprimands of the behavior of certain categories. And then the separation of the power. The federal division of the powers between the national and regional government, the state and center, with a significant power vested in the states, that is, including the education and health, has served as a source of inclusion. Served as a source of inclusion. In addition to the political institutions, civil society organizations, and the free press have been sourced for the inclusion in the polity. So unfortunately, in recent past, media are the other important fourth estate of the state is not clearly playing its role in addressing the issues of the people. So then these are all important provisions which are which are helpful to promoting pluralistic nature of the country. And the pluralism is our strength again. And India is no doubt about it, pluralistic country, even other countries I have already mentioned, Canada, Australia, America, and many other countries. But in India, far more categories, far more ethnic groups are there with the India. Therefore, India should follow the pluralistic model. It is more appropriate now. Then, in order to maintain that plurality, apart from all these provisions just now we have discussed, there are some challenges, ongoing challenges to the pluralism. Despite all these institutional and normative framework, the pluralism in India faces so many challenges. So one by one, let us discuss a few more. Only few challenges I haven't listed. There are so many, but apart from that, the major challenges I haven't listed here. Let us go one by one. That is a majoritarian pleasure. This is a rise of religious nationalism at the limited the space for the minorities and foster the exclusion. This is one of the important challenges to the pluralism. The principle of pluralism has sometimes clashed with the cause of regional uniformity, such as the again uniform civil code debate and testing the balance between the cultural autonomy and national unity. This kind of dichotomy is arising time and again with the majoritarian pressure. So the globalization and social changes and even present new threats to stress the point of the pluralism and requiring continuous confirmation of constitutional values and public awareness efforts. And this is one of the important challenge to the uh, um, pluralism. And another aspect is the challenge is the linguistic division. As you all know very well, the contagious language enumerations, that is legitimizing versus delegitimizing linguistic identities. That is what now the debates are going on. And some of the countries are not ready to accept Hindi as a national language. And these are the issues, linguistic issues that comes in the way in order to promoting the pluralism in India. And even political polarization is another important aspect. The vote bank politics, creating artificial divisions, and petty political interests over the national unity are the real threats to the pluralism. As you all know, how political parties are polarizing the people for their selfish interest that to vote bank and get power, political power. They can go to any extent and they can create artificial divisions, though they are not, their divisions are very thin, but due to the political interference, it will be huge gulf, and that artificial divisions will be more problematic to the unity of the nation. So that is what we are visualizing at present now. And the religious exclusivity, that is another important aspect we need to consider. The religion reuniting and some while dividing others, and erosion of inclusive religious practices. So these are all threats or challenges the contemporary challenges to the very fabric of the pluralism of the country. And there are pathways to consolidate the space for the pluralism. And of course, again, we have to seriously consider pluralism is the philosophy or the strength of our India. Again, we need to promote that pluralism because such a diverse culture, we need to dominate or assimilate the other cultures and other identities of the different groups with the main group. Therefore, we have to uh, follow the good pathway and to consolidate the pluralism. That is the negation of impediments to diversity through institutional reforms and social policies. It has to negation to implement such policies and the regeneration of institutions. That is another important pathway to follow so that the pluralism and secularism are woven deeply into the democratic practices and are not merely sides of the political concentrations. So therefore, we need to regenerate the very important ideology or the important aspect of the secularization of the society. It has to be deeply democratized practice and other important aspects need to be followed. And of course, there is, I may expect some questions about even secularism too. We shall discuss a little later. And another third important pathway to consolidate the space for the pluralism is that is the promotion of constitutional values. That is a very important aspect, I would like to say. That is through civic awareness and education to protect pluralistic ideal and safeguard against encroaching majoritarianism, right? To the consolidation of the space for the pluralism in the post-colonial India has been the complex and ongoing process. It is adhered into the constitution and federalism and inclusive politics, yet persistently challenged by majoritarian impulses and socio-political changes. So that majoritarianism is playing a predominant role to disturb the fabric of the plurality of the nation. The ability to maintain and strengthen this pluralism lies in upholding the constitutional guarantee because constitution is protected everybody's rights. Constitution is given equality to each and everyone, and constitution is to the maximum extent it is trying to address the issues of all sorts of categories, either it is a religious minorities, linguistic minorities, or the marginalized communities, even women, very importantly women, and in a recent past even third gender issues, gender insensitivity in a it is constitution is trying through its legal laws, later laws to address the gender issues, right? So, in order to foster an inclusive and participatory culture in the public life. So, these are the pathways to promote the pluralism in the country. To conclude, India's pluralistic legacy is a unique model of the unity through diversity. India, as you all know, some scholars said that India is a mini world. What all the diversities you can see in the whole world that can be seen only in India. Such a diverse country India is. right? You can see all diversities in the country. In India only, you can see the such a diversity. Therefore, India is such a diverse country, but it is a unique model of unity in diversity. After 75 years of independence, all categories are leading peacefully, and all identities are trying to get its own space in all sphere, at least to certain extent, not fully, not 100%. But there are so many issues and challenges with that. But I do agree with that. But apart from that, India is trying to address all the requirements or all the needs of the uh, all categories. Then the historical evidences of successful integration can see the 75 years is not a small tenure. See, there were neighbor countries. Within 10-15 years, they have changed their constitution several times. And they have fought each other politically and facing so many problems. But whereas India is still having the same constitution and integratedly leading life peacefully. So the constitutional commitment to inclusive democracy that we have to appreciate. Invariably, we have to appreciate. Indian constitution is such a good constitution which bind all categories and all people together. That is a perfect constitution for pluralism. But and living culture enriched by the multiple traditions is another important aspect. So the call of the action is it is not a responsibility of one single man. It is a collective responsibility to preserve and strengthen a pluralistic value of the future generation. As you all know, since a very learned audience here, teachers, it is not a one man's responsibility, it is a collective responsibility. Everyone should understand the core idea of pluralism and importance of pluralism and try to promote and promote the pluralistic values for the future generation. All right. So thank you. Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The world is one family. With this note, I would like to conclude today's lecture. Let us discuss if any issues with my lecture or the topic concerned the pluralism. All right. Thank you, one and all, for your patient listening. And thanks for the opportunity given by the Academic Staff College Mysore and especially Professor Krishna Hombert. And I thank you if you supplement any idea to my idea, or if you have any doubts, you please raise questions. Let us discuss.